Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the Mining Podcast. And today's guest is Matt Salthouse, who's the CEO of Kainantu Resources. I think I pronounced that right. Who are an Asia-Pacific focused gold mining company with two highly prospective gold projects in the premier mining region in the high-grade Kainantu Gold District of PNG. Matt has a background in law and a wealth of experience in the mining industry, working for a handful of mining companies, including Oceana Gold. So it'd be good to hear and get a good perspective from what's happening in the mining industry from his perspective and what's been happening in PNG with many companies facing challenges with the government. So let's get straight into this and welcome Matt. How you doing, Matt?
Good, mate. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
No, and I appreciate you taking up the time. You're in Singapore at the moment, so there's a bit of a time difference. So yeah, I really appreciate you joining the podcast. So wondered if you can give us a brief background of yourself from obviously way back when you got into, or even before the industry, and then whilst you got into the industry to present day, and then then I want to find out more about the company and obviously what's been happening in PNG. So I'll hand it over to you.
Certainly. Look, as you say, I started my life, professional life as a lawyer, but I've always had a focus on industry and business, to be honest. So really been a mining professional and then turned executive for the last 25 years or so. Real focus for me, in addition to building successful mid-cap mining companies, is Asia Pacific. So I've got a real passion and interest in working in this part of the world. So we've had a number of successes, if you will, and learning experiences from developing precious metal gold mining projects and companies in this part of the world, and always looking to create the shareholder wealth on the way through. So that's my focus. I was a senior executive with Oceana Gold for a number of years, as you point out, and had a lead role at one stage in helping to develop the Didipio project and take that into pre-development activities and sort out a whole raft of social license issues and some of the legal regulatory issues and mining concession matters that are associated with that. So that was good, in addition to doing a lot of capital raising work with Oceana. And then from there, I moved to a company called Archipelago Resources, which was listed in AIM for a number of years, which had the Tokatindon mine in Sulawesi, Indonesia. So quite a good quality project in Indonesia, which we commissioned as a team, took to 250,000 ounces production, sub 600 cash costs at the time, and developed a 3 million ounce resource. So that was something we did in collaboration with a like-minded team of professionals in region. Ultimately, we were able to sell that, or successful in selling that in a takeover to an Indonesian investor for about $600 million and EV value and a 40% premium to the share price. So on the way through in terms of that deal and probably earlier in terms of work with Oceana Gold, I was able to develop a good network in this part of the world, in this region, and also a body of like-minded professionals. So what we're really doing at Kainantu is bringing together that network and that group of professionals who have worked together and developed projects in region before to build a new platform in Asia Pacific, clearly focusing in on PNG with our core asset at the moment. But it's a platform to take forward this company, and it's it's something which I've been looking to do with the management team for a number of years, and at the early stages so far, but looking quite prospective, and there's a lot of opportunity we see.
Yeah, just want to get your view. Obviously, you come from a law background. How do you see the mining industry through your eyes, coming from that sort of background, compared to, say, people from a traditional mining background, whether they study mine engineering, whether they study geology, for instance? How do you see the mining industry from that your perspective compared to a more traditional mining background?
I think from my point of view, and certainly it was a theme which we took forward of Archipelago, these projects are to be commercialised, if you will. So, whether you're taking the Didipio development project for OceanaGold at a very early stage, or whether you're taking Kainantu Resources exploration project, all of these initiatives have a commercial aspect to them. And clearly the critical aspects always to bear in mind is geology and, mine engineering, planning work and what have you as you move through development curve. But is really to take these projects and take a commercial corporate perspective to them to drive them forward. So that's certainly my approach, not necessarily as a lawyer, but as a commercial operative to developing assets, as opposed to looking at them as a pure mining project. I think we could take clearly the project aspect is critical, but if you could take the broader corporate philosophy to it, it gives you a basis to also build a company, wrap a company around the project at the same time.
Yeah. And how do you see the law and governance between different countries and jurisdictions that you've worked in? How much do they differ? Or are they pretty much quite similar? Do certain countries and jurisdictions or even continents follow one? If one, for instance, if Asia starts to work towards I suppose a certain way, do then other continents then follow those? Do they sort of certain countries follow other countries, and how do you see that from a I suppose a governance perspective?
Look, there's certainly been a trend over the last 10 years or so for governments of whatever persuasion in whatever nationality or whatever region to want a bigger share of the cake from these projects, and that elements of, and we see that in more developed countries to developing countries. So I think that's a consistent theme, whether it's the Philippines or Indonesia or Papua New Guinea, or even Japan, where there's some activities in Japan where there is interest in developing projects, but also a view that people and through them, I guess, governments should have a greater role or say in the benefits that are coming from the projects, whether that's right or wrong. That's clearly a trend I see across the region, across Southeast Asia. We see that in Papua New Guinea as well. Papua New Guinea is a little different from some of the Southeast Asian countries that I worked in, that I find actually that the mining culture is probably more developed there. It does piggyback somewhat off the Australian law and systems. And so there's a great awareness and understanding of mining concepts and what have you when it comes to dealing with regulators than, say, some parts of Indonesia, for example.
Yeah. Before we speak about specifically around PNG, you've recently listed on the Canadian stock market, where you've obviously enjoyed a great start. Can you give us an introduction to Kainantu and the rationale behind the listing?
Look, it's been established really to give investors access to an entry-level junior play in Asia Pacific. So clearly Asia Pacific's very geographically rich, geologically rich, I should say, mining area. And we see an opportunity there for a junior player to enter the space and give investors a platform in Asia Pacific, in particular in the Canadian market. So there's some successful larger scale Asia Pacific focused miners there, but not so much at the junior entry level. So really Kainantu has been developed to drive that option for investors. And it's three components to it: quality asset, quality project, quality management team, credentialed management team who've worked together in the region before, and also a strong partner. Critical, obviously, to working in developing nations is a strong local partner. So we have that. So they're the three critical elements that come together for Kainantu. and on the basis of that, we've taken the project and the company forward for listing. Obviously, focusing in on our PNG asset at this stage as the priority.
And I wondered if you can just give us an overview, obviously, of the project and what's the project like, looking like over the sort of the next 12 months, and what you hope to achieve.
Yeah, so look, the project is in close proximity to K92 operations. So K92 is clearly very successful Canadian listed gold producer with the highest, one of the highest grade producers in the world, and clearly plans and successes in expanding their resource base. So our assets, our portfolio is in close proximity to K92. So we've got one asset project we call KRL North, which is borders K92 and shares some of the same structural signature of the Billimora field, which K92 mine in. So that's a smaller but highly prospective tenement bordering K92 to the north. And then otherwise we have the other core tenement is KRL South, we call it, which is about 25 kilometres to the southwest of K92, sits on the Kainantu transfer structure, so a well-known fault system there, if you will, for successful mining in Kainantu area. And early studies there indicate likelihood of epithermal skarn deposits and porphyry intrusive outcrops also being mapped for studies. So they're the core, if you will, assets of the project. And look, in the coming year, we're looking to conduct a trenching program. So in the last few months, we've conducted a ridge and spur program, really centering around the centre of the KRL South project around an area called Tirokave. So ridge and spur work there, some geochem sampling, structural mapping, outcrop observations, all indicate probably a relatively shallowly buried epithermal prospect, which looks encouraging, and we think that's an area for particular focus for us over the next 6 to 12 months. So we're going to continue some trenching work there and look towards a drilling program as the year progresses, potentially say 40 holes around the more intensive area there of that prospective tenement. So there's lots of things for us to do across the portfolio. Given capital resources, we're going to hone in on this Tirokave area to start with, because we think that's most likely to bear early fruit, if you will, as we slowly move through or prospectively and with vigor move through the early stage exploration program.
Yeah. And how is financing going, and how are you looking to sort of finance or how have you financed the project, and how are you financing it moving forward?
So we obviously raised about 4.1 million Canadian dollars at the end of 2020 and listed through qualified transaction on the TSX Venture Exchange. So we've got a trading platform now and a structure there which also potentially lets us exercise some warrants on achieving certain milestone events or share price appreciation for the stock over the coming time, which potentially lets us raise additional funds. I think certainly for the immediate focus, we have ample finances for our exploration program and well financed and placed to pursue the work program, certainly this trenching and initial drilling over the next 12 months or so.
Yeah. And how, obviously your property's sort of quite near K92, how is your relationship with them? And is there any synergies that you can sort of attain with them?
So K92, a lot of the operatives in the field work quite closely with the K92 people. The K92 people have been very supportive with us where we've needed to pass through their tenements to access our properties. We see that there's most likely some synergy with K92, although I haven't had any direct discussions with them. Obviously, they've been successful, and it's encouraging for us to look at them as a model for what can be done in Kainantu region. Clearly, they've developed a strong social license in Kainantu region, and look, that's something which we'll continue to embark on and work on as well. And I potentially see options for collaboration, certainly at a community level at least, as our story evolves. It's somewhat smaller than K92's, but the mining industry is all about collaboration at one level too.
Yeah, certainly. I want to talk a bit more about sort of PNG as a mining jurisdiction. You've obviously had some endorsements from the Minister of Mines and some encouragement and praise. So I just wonder if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Look, the mining ministry, from our point of view, has been really helpful in driving or helping us drive this listing. There's obviously a number of regulatory issues that needed to be resolved before listing in Canada, and the Mineral Resource Authority in PNG is very helpful in helping us resolve those matters. They've been supportive on the ground in Kainantu in terms of renewing our exploration licenses. So generally, we've had a very constructive and positive relationship with the mining authorities and the mining minister in PNG. Clearly, there's a desire from the government in PNG to encourage junior exploration investment into the country. Clearly there's a view that the overall national resource inventory needs to be expanded. They can't just rely on major exploration mining companies to do that for them. So on that basis, they've been very supportive and helpful towards our company and the strategy that we're looking to embark on.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there's been some negative press over the sort of last 12 months between Barrick Gold and the PNG government. How are you finding the mining environment sort of in country? And how are you, I suppose, cementing yourselves and your company with the PNG government? Obviously, I've mentioned that they've been highly obviously endorsing you, and it seems you've got that good relationship. But how has, I suppose, the government been within the country to mining? Obviously, because we've seen some negative press with Barrick.
Look, obviously, there's some reform to the law proposed, which, whenever there's discussion about changing mining acts wherever it is in the world, people become uncertain. So clearly that has caused some miners to be unsettled. I guess, though, I would look at some of the statistics, if you like. So PNG, notwithstanding all the noise over the last 12, 18 months or so, still ranks as one of the top 15 gold producers in the world. Produced over $3-4 billion worth of gold production, in the 2019-2020 year, for example. So notwithstanding a lot of the political noise, the miners continue to mine and the exploration companies continue to explore. And look, in our case, as I mentioned earlier, we've worked hard to develop local networks and alliances. So we have a strong local partner called Asia Pacific Energy Ventures, APEV. They're highly regarded by the PNG government and other stakeholders in PNG. They're the largest private EPC contractor in country. So we work well with them. And that's helped us manage sovereign risk and neutralise sovereign risk. Some of the startup issues that other companies may have when entering a country, we haven't had the ability to leverage their network to help us resolve roadblocks along the way has been very helpful as well. So, at a broader level, the mining companies continue to mine, notwithstanding political heat or otherwise. And at a localised level for our own company, we've got a clear pathway to deal with sovereign risk issues as and when they might emerge.
Yeah. And what challenges do you see yourself facing, or the company facing, in the short term? Obviously, we're in the height of COVID and this pandemic. Obviously that'd be potentially a challenge as well. So apart from COVID and the challenges and lockdowns, etc., what other challenges do you see you facing in the sort of short term?
I think in these developing regions, working with the community, not necessarily a challenge, but it's something that has to be continually managed. So working closely with local stakeholders is a critical challenge for us, and I think for anybody who is working in PNG or other areas in Southeast Asia. COVID obviously is a big issue as well. You mentioned that. For us, that's a critical aspect to manage, in particular movement of talent in and out of the country. So getting senior managers in and out is delayed from time to time. So that needs to be closely managed. And I see, for all miners, that is clearly a key challenge.
Yeah. And how is your relationship with the local community?
Really strong local relationship. We've had the local or the local clans met recently in the last 6 months or so to endorse our project. So the exploration tenements come up for a review after 2 years, which requires the National Warden to come and conduct hearings in region to find out whether the community supports the projects or not. All the clans came together and were very vocal in supporting our projects and endorsing recommendations that our tenements be extended. So that is strong traction in Kainantu for what we're doing.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. And what do you think makes you such an exciting proposition for investors out there compared to some of the other junior miners? And what would you say your USPs are? And why would someone want to invest in you?
Look, I think it's an excellent entry-level opportunity, and the asset we have, high-quality asset in a proven high-quality, world-renowned mining district, excellent management team assembled with experience in Southeast Asia and Papua New Guinea to develop a project. So when we sit back and look at all of the aspects that you'd want to put together to build an exploration play at a junior level and take it forward, we've sought to find solutions and options for all of those. So we think we present a very credible investment case there, as I say, with a blue chip asset that looks more and more encouraging every time we do work on it.
Yeah. And as a conclusion, what's the sort of outlook and vision for Kainantu, looking over the next, say, 3 to 5 years? What is the sort of vision of the company?
Yeah, so really a twofold vision, if you will, to create shareholder value. So clearly the first aspect is taking the asset that we have, the bird in hand, and working that asset hard. So our tenements in Kainantu, to say blue chip, we continue to work them hard, continue to work through all the conventional processes and what have you to develop an exploration play, an asset. Ultimately the intention, I think, for any junior miner is to develop an inferred resource, which clearly gives us a basis to be valued and have a value metric applied to us, and potentially there it lets you step up. I don't take it for granted that developing an inferred resource just doesn't happen overnight, and there's clearly a lot of steps along the way. So we'll work through those as they come. But number one, work the asset that we have and work it hard. And secondly, I think we developed Kainantu as a platform for further, options, activities, and initiatives in Southeast Asia. We think that while it's not necessarily giving away aspects of the company or anything of that nature, we do think that there's options for us to enter into strategic initiatives and alliances in Papua New Guinea and other parts of the region. And over time, with our own asset and potentially with a portfolio of other assets, we build a quality option of suite of assets across the region at the junior level, and let it expand from there.
Yeah, well, I'll really be looking forward to your progress, and everyone that's listening, please obviously keep an eye out for you guys. If people want to reach out to you, are you on any social media platforms? If they want to ask you any questions or find out more information about how you're getting on and how the company's going?
We do have a Twitter account. We also have obviously a standard website, info@kainanturesources.com. Send an email and we'll be happy to take it on and respond.
Yeah, no worries. And all those details will be accompanying this podcast in the show notes as well. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, again, if you look below, those details will be on there as well. Appreciate if you can like and share this episode. Appreciate if you, again, people that are listening, really appreciate if you can keep sharing these episodes, and especially people sharing this episode with people working in PNG, just to see how Kainantu are going. So really appreciate sharing this episode. So until next time, happy mining.